Welcome back. Another episode. Today's topic is the buyer. All right. You must know what a buyer is because everybody wants something. Everyone has money to go out there and buy something they actually want, right? So what a buyer is they create demand within a market, right? So that's all a buyer does. So if anything, if folks are craving something like, oh, I need that. I think what was the big thing this year? It was the chicken sandwich, right? Popeyes had a big challenge against Chick-fil-A for who had the best chicken sandwich, right? So folks were going out and they were discovering that experience for themselves. They're like, okay, which one is better? And they wanted to have that choice. They wanted to have that decision. So that is a buying decision. And believe it or not, in that particular case, the hype that was created over this, who has the best chicken sandwich, was created by the sellers to attract the buyers to come in and discover it for themselves, right? But just within any market, the buyers actually create that demand. So whether the sellers, put that hype up to get folks to actually come out, the buyers actually made that decision to go out and discover that for themselves. So that is what a buyer does. A buyer essentially sort of satisfies that demand, or not satisfies, pulls that demand within the market, right? So the sellers, they had to make sure they had enough inventory, right? And the buyers would go out there and they would consume that inventory in case a chicken sandwich is something they actually eat. But I remember the big thing that happened with Popeye's chicken sandwich is that they ran out. There was nothing left. So for all the sandwiches that they were selling, folks wanted to have that Popeye chicken sandwich and they just couldn't get it because it wasn't available anymore, right? So that demand was huge. And as a result, you had a lot of things that you didn't expect would happen in a Popeye's establishment for folks wanting that chicken sandwich, right? Some crazy stuff. But in any case, that's what can happen, right? If somebody wants it so bad, the stuff that they're willing to do would kind of make you scratch your head and be like, you really went through all that for something that may not have seemed very significant? But that's the big thing. When you actually make a buying decision, it is relative. So whomever's perspective that's coming from, as far as, let's say it wasn't me, but my wife's a big foodie. So let's say she had to have that chicken sandwich, like her eyes would get real big and be like, I must have that chicken sandwich, right? So with that, it's relative. It's all dependent upon who the buyer is and what they actually want. And they're going to jump through hoops and do whatever they have to do to be able to satisfy that desire to actually have it. So that's what makes buyers so, such a force to be reckoned with, right? Because if there's something they really want, they're going to do everything within their power to actually get it. Now, in the case we talked about with the chicken sandwiches, again, Popeyes was trying to move their inventory. They did a great job of it because they actually ran out. But that's usually not the goal. The goal is not really to run out, but they're able to sell out whatever they were able to make. So on the seller side, again, their goal is to sell out. The buyer side is to make sure that their desire is actually being satisfied. All right. Now, why do we actually buy? Well, in the case of the Popeyes chicken sandwich versus Chick-fil-A, it's because there was hype that was created and folks wanted to find out for themselves, right? So they had this desire, and I believe that desire hits that first point, is there's a perceived sense of fulfillment. So in other words, if I discover which chicken sandwich is better, that's going to make me feel better about myself. That's going to make me happy or more joyful, maybe for the fact that I had the sandwich, or maybe the fact that I actually know which one's better, and now I can kind of focus my sights on that, right? So believe it or not, that actually comes into this realm of this idea of the American dream, as far as, let's say there's the pursuit of happiness that you actually can go after with the American dream. And that's pretty much what you get. So there's this idea that, in buying this item or buying this thing or whatever it is, my life is going to be better as a result, right? So that's literally what the American dream says. But that's one of maybe a total of 3 reasons why people actually buy. The second, I would see, would be a means to an end. So what I mean by that is that, let's say this purchase will enable me to complete my goal. So let's say I am working on my car and I needed a part in order to make sure the car is actually working. Let's say I had an alternator die, so I had to go out and I had to buy a new part. So in that particular case, I need that part in order to make my car actually work again. So in putting that part into place, all of a sudden I now have a working vehicle, which I didn't have before. So I'm actually using it as a means to an end. And that can be very important, especially if you need something that you would consider critical to your life or to your business, or something that kind of just needs to be up and running so that you can be efficient and functional. And I'm not sure if that would necessarily go along the lines of survival, but let's say that that's more in the line of business, just being able to sort of conduct your personal business or business for your business, if that's commercial or whatever that actually is. But then the third piece is you have survival. So survival helps provide this satisfaction of a life need. And these days, I would consider there to be 5 life needs. The first 3 you probably are already familiar with. Shelter being number 1, then water, then food. Just for the fact that shelter should be the number 1 most important thing on the list, because if a bad storm comes through and you don't have shelter, that could be it, right? And then with water, you can survive, a little bit longer and food. Again, that's kind of third on the totem pole. But these days, with the pandemic in place, I also believe communication and transportation are also equally important. Why? Because communication, you need that social interaction to make sure you don't lose your mind, just kind of being in. If that's, the situation that you're in, and you need transportation to be able to get you to certain places where you actually need to be. So those are the 5 things I would consider as being important to survival, and those may be considered life needs. So those 3 reasons are why we actually buy. Now, what do we buy? Range of things here. I couldn't possibly go through everything that you would imagine that you actually might want to buy, but if there's 2 basic categories, I see them as tangible and intangible. Certain things that you can go out there and you can touch, and other things that you can't touch. And so all the things that we can touch, if you're going out and you're buying a vehicle or a home or anything that, again, you acquire that's property, those are the tangible things. But there are a lot of intangible things. So anything that you actually have online, such as an email account or, various things in that capacity, just as far as what those represent, not really so much something that you can touch, but you interact with. So those are pretty much the 2 categories that I essentially see there. But going along with that, there's this idea of certain things that you also experience and certain things you can't experience. But in any case, again, wide range of things to buy, but it's useful to kind of understand how those categories actually work. Now, buyer's regret. That's probably like a big thing on the list, right? For all the stuff that you actually want, there's always those decisions that you make that you're just like, ooh, I probably shouldn't have bought that, right? So you can go on either side of this. Usually 2 forms of buyer's regret that I see are missing an opportunity to buy something that you wanted, but you just didn't react fast enough, right? Maybe it was that Popeye's chicken sandwich that sold out. And maybe you're thinking to yourself, man, I waited too long to get in line, or I waited too long to leave to actually go and get it. That's why I missed out. And you might have this like empty feeling inside, like hopefully not inside your stomach. Hopefully you found an alternative. But that procrastination that you might have seen or felt or experienced, you look at that as the reason why you missed out on something. And so you kind of think like, oh, if anything ever happens again, I had to make sure I act more quickly, right? And then on the other side, you have, hey, I bought that item way too quick because now I bought it and I can't really think of a use for it anymore. How many folks have something that's lying around the house that is still in the packaging that they've never used? My kids have a bunch of toys down in the Fungin that are still in the boxes because they got so many toys for birthdays and Christmas and everything else that it made no sense to open them because they already had too many toys, right? So in that case, we kind of have an oversupply. And I make an effort to make sure they don't open the boxes because, hey, we might be able to use this in another capacity. Like, hey, it's a friend's birthday. Give the gift to a friend. I was like, don't have to open it yourself. I mean, gifts keep on giving, right? So in any case, you want to look to see, okay, well, why did it actually happen? And that's due to haste. Some folks make that buying decision and they decide they want to buy something without really thinking, hey, is this actually going to get used? This day and age, unfortunately, kids have too many toys. It's funny, kids really don't need that much in order to be stimulated intellectually. As far as, hey, sometimes a box might actually even be enough to fulfill their imagination. But in any case, those are kind of the 2 forms of buyer's regret. And we want to be able to combat that because we don't want to miss out on things. And at the same time, we don't want to move too quickly in our buying decisions. So how do we avoid buyer's regret? Well, 3 real easy ways to do it. But again, you have to practice them and have them be second nature. The very first is align any purchase you make with your goals. Goals. Hopefully you have goals. Hopefully you have them written down. Hopefully you know exactly what they are. Because if you don't, this is the easiest trap to fall into. Where it's just like, I found a shiny object and I purchased it. And after I purchased it, I'm not really sure why I did it. So having your goals clearly in line with what you're actually purchasing is incredibly important because that can stop that purchasing decision right in the tracks. Simple question, hey, is this purchase going to align with the goals that I have for myself? If it's a no, you can simply walk away, right? So that's the number one most important thing. The other two, recognize the intent of whoever's giving you advice. If you need advice to buy anything you actually need, determine if the salesperson is actually giving you advice. Because if they're incentivized based on selling you something, their motives aren't the same as yours. So you definitely want to take that into consideration. And last but not least, perform your research or do due diligence. That means you do your homework and you make sure that this is the right decision for you. It's super important. All right, so those are the 3 ways to avoid buyer's regret. Now, the buyers that I've seen be most successful when they're purchasing anything are the folks that know exactly what they want, right? That's like the first piece. Know exactly what you want. Be able to, identify all the options and everything that's come along with it, because it's not going to be a surprise when you actually, acquire what it is that you want, because you know exactly what you want. The other 2 pieces to that, understand how to get what you want. Again, this comes from practice and sort of just looking at all your options and seeing what you can do so that when you actually do find what you want, you can make a decision and make that happen. And then last but not least, have the ability to make your own decisions. Don't let, finding the perfect thing that you want and knowing how to get it, but not being able to get it because you can't make the decision, stop you. You want to be able to make your own decisions. All right. Now, with all that considered, I can actually help you if you're looking at real estate and you're actually looking to make a purchasing decision. And the reason I can actually do that is because I'm naturally gifted at finding what people want. I've been doing that pretty much all my life. So doing this with real estate is not a difficult thing for me. In addition to that, I've outsourced all the heavy lifting to systems. So I don't have to use my own time to actually find certain things and see if they fit. Having those systems in place allows that process to work seamlessly. And then last but not least, I have a nationwide network in place, actually a few different types of networks at my disposal. So even if I can't find directly what you're looking for myself, I have a huge network that can actually do that and help me identify those opportunities. So if that's something that interests you, then you want to text BUY, B-U-Y, to 571-777-0461. If you're interested in making a purchasing decision and would like to buy, then text, one more time, BUY to 571-777-0461. I hope you enjoyed this presentation on buyers, what they do, why they're important, and how they can make better purchasing decisions. And as always, if there's more topics or information that you're looking for on any of the content that we discuss in these videos, feel free to reach out and let me know. All right, so hope you have a good rest of the day, and don't forget, reach out if you're looking to buy. All right, talk to you later.